Today, the infamous R-Anon has been debunked by Q, and we talk about the Federal Reserve and its influence over the Trump administration, as well as the EU tariffs being given in concession to President Trump. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. For those of you who don't know, every episode I start the same way. I say thank you to all my subscribers because I fully realize how important you guys are. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, please come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications. That way, as soon as these videos get posted, you'll be notified because as soon as information is made available to me, I make it available to you. So first, we're going to jump into the posts with the latest Q posts, and they actually tell a whole lot of different stories. And I'm going to leave certain things up to debate for you guys, and then we're going to talk about other things, and then we'll just go ahead and see what we can do. First things first, though, Q posts this picture that is a screenshot, basically, of an Anon posting a previous Q post, where Q responded on April 19th, 2018, to a Anon saying, Federal Reserve ending? That was the question being asked. Q responds, structure, Q. And then this was an Anon posting here that says, future proves past, is pointing to what we're dealing with right now. And what we're dealing with right now are the next two articles pointed out to us by Q. One we went over before, and another is kind of verifying it. So you have this sort of double verification, and what it's basically saying is that President Trump has the right to call out the Fed if it's not acting in the best U.S.'s best interest, as he can have the Secretary of Treasury, yield his authority over the Fed, and that the Fed is not untouchable. These standards and procedures that were developed were basically never solidified to the point of being able to be changed or not unable to be changed. So the change comes in the fact that President Trump is talking about what he sees as a problem in the Federal Reserve. Now, I'm not an economist, and I made this very clear in the last video. That's not my specialty, my area of expertise, but I do take interest in it, and it is a definite hobby of mine to study markets and stocks and how everything works. And in this particular instance, I think what's being insinuated here is that President Trump wants to continue to have a rally of growth in this country, and what he sees right now is them restricting the amount of money being printed. He sees them increasing the interest rates. I mean, it said we have 5 more interest rates scheduled, and if President Trump sees this as a way to strangle out his economic packages that are providing prosperity to the United States, then according to the way the laws are written, he has the right to intercede. And that's exactly what it seems like he's planning on doing, as we are being told and alluded to here by Q. Q is saying 2 + 2 confirmations fast. We will never be under their control again, Q. So we all know, looking back, we all know what happened to JFK. We all know the story. We all know what the theories are behind that. And JFK came out very strongly against the Federal Reserve, going as far as to say that he wanted to use the Department of Treasury to create and print their own currency that could be backed by precious metals like silver. I believe that was Executive Order 1110, something to that effect. And shortly thereafter, we saw what happened to President Kennedy, and that's quite unfortunate and sad. But Q is alluding to the fact that we will never be under their control again. And speaking of JFK, stick around because Q kind of gives us an insight into this R thing. If you guys want to get more info on that and watch it, go back here. This was something that came out during Q's absence. This who is R? It was R was somebody posting, pretending to be or alleging to be JFK Jr. through the context of what they were saying. And you can go back and watch it, and go back and watch these last few videos if you want to get caught up. By the way, obviously they don't like what I put into this last video because they demonetized it almost immediately, and have confirmed that. So that's great. Obviously, I said something, I struck a nerve, I must be over the target. So if you guys want to get some information, I'd recommend you come here and watch this video, right? So that being said, if you're still scratching your head going, what's QAnon? I encourage you to come here and watch this video, or share this video, share this link. And even if you know what QAnon is, it can give you more information on how to do research and how to get involved on the boards and find out where all the information is. So that's definitely something I encourage people to share and watch if you can, and I really appreciate that. But the R-Anon thing we're going to hear about, and Q tells us pretty in direct terms what it is, but we'll see. Now, the next post is pretty plain, an Anon post, morning Q, and Q responds, happy days ahead, Patriot. Q. So that is what it is, and it's kind of a good morning. Then here is the clarification. It says, an Anon post need clarification in order to prevent movement split. Is R real or fake? Q responds, there's only Q. Q. Well, to me that definitively says that the R was some kind of stunt or a hoax, but that doesn't mean that this couldn't be another piece of misinformation or disinformation that has to be put out there in order to get people off the trail. So it could go either way, and I would just say, you guys let me know what you think down in the comments, because I try to remain fairly objective when it comes to making decisive judgments on certain issues here, especially in the Q boards, because the reality is that we all are searching for the truth together. So it's going to be a collective effort, a joint effort, and we go all the way up to post 1700 where we get interesting. But the next one is this was a Q post from February 10th, and Q posts the picture of the post that says, rest in peace, Mr. President, JFK. Through your wisdom and strength since your tragic death, patriots have planned, installed, and by the grace of God, activated the beam of light. We will forever remember your sacrifice. May you look down from above and continue to guide us as we ring the bell of freedom and destroy those who wish to sacrifice our children, our way of life, and our world. We the people, and prayer said every single day in the Oval Office, JFK, secret societies. See, they misspelled societies, and I don't know if there's a relevance there. Where we go one, we go all, Q. So that in and of itself is not really the bombshell, other than I hope this prayer just ends in Jesus' name, amen. In our Lord's name, amen. Because that's it should be a prayer to God also, and first and foremost. But other than that, it's a good prayer. I'm glad they're saying it by the grace of God. They recognize God in it, and that is the most important thing. Now, responding to that Q post here, basically the oath that you have to take to, I guess, join the FBI, because the link is to the FBI explanation of it. But it says, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter, so help me God. And that's the oath they have to take. Now, if you go to the website that they give you, it basically is like a write-up by this guy Jonathan Rudd of the description of what the oath means. And there's a few interesting parts here. If you guys want to read this for yourself, I'll encourage you to come read it. But I'll leave a link down in the description. But it says right here, the meaning of the oath is very interesting. I love this, and I want to read this for everyone out there, because if this is a call to action to people in the FBI or other people who have taken this oath and work in public positions, where they may know things and they are being asked to stand up for what's right and the truth. Let me read this to them specifically. I want to give you a brief analysis of these words and their meanings. And I'm going to say this, it's going to be as clear as a day, I hope, for them to understand the reason why it's important for them to come forward and do their constitutional duty and basically execute this oath to the best of their ability. Now it says, I, an individual person, citizen, one member of the whole officer, do perform, accomplish, and it's giving a description. So I, quote, unquote, individual person, citizen, one member of the whole officer, quote unquote, do perform, accomplish, act, carry out, complete, achieve, execute, quote unquote, solemnly, somberly, gravely, seriously, earnestly, sincerely, firmly, fervently, with thought and ceremony, quote, swear or affirm, unquote, vow, pledge, promise, guarantee, quote, that I will, quote, a positive phrase confirming present and future action, momentum, determination, resolve, responsibility, willpower, and intention, quote unquote, support, uphold, bear, carry, sustain, maintain, quote, and defend, unquote, protect, guard, preserve, secure, shield, look after, quote, the Constitution of the United States, unquote. There you go. Simple. I hope that clears it up for you guys. If you're wondering about what your oath actually means, I mean, it goes on here to point out some important things about why the oath is made to affirm their allegiance to a document as opposed to an individual or an entity. Because the reality is that the Nazis had you pledge an oath to Hitler, and going all the way back to the Crown of England, making you worship or establish an oath of loyalty to the king. This is what we were trying to avoid, and we knew that there were pitfalls to establishing an oath of loyalty to an individual, and that's why the importance of understanding the Constitution is paramount for these people who are in these positions who have to take this oath, because they have to understand that the Constitution is the Constitution. The words on the Constitution are strictly meant to be interpreted in their original form and sense, and that's my opinion, because I'm more of an originalist, and I don't believe that the Constitution's up for much interpretation. Everything was laid out very clearly, and it's only when things are not laid out clearly in the Constitution, then a judge can, or Supreme Court justice can make a decision with others to say that since it was not mentioned, it can be interpreted in a different way than maybe others may think. So that's definitely my take on it. And it's a reaffirmation for everyone out there who's taken this oath. Maybe it's a warning or a hint to them. Hey, Q says, remember, you owe it to your country, to yourself, to your children. We stand with you. And the time is now, Q. So hopefully that's rallying the people in the FBI and in the DOJ and all these individuals who have taken this oath to say, look, regardless of what your political affiliation is, the storm is coming whether you like it or not. The swamp will be drained. People will go to jail. January 2019 is when the executive order kicks in, where public officials can be can be brought in front of court martials for their actions. So you have to make a choice now, between now and then, what side you're on. Who do you stand for? Do you stand for the Constitution of the United States? Do you stand for the oath that you took to your office? Or do you stand for the politicians who have corrupted it, the politicians who have either given you power or basically have threatened your existence with blackmail or other forms of threats? Those are the questions you have to do. Or are you being coerced by coworkers? Whatever it is, I think that's kind of a signal, obviously, for people watching these boards. Now, the next one is Q. This is responding to his own post here, saying, to all Americans, please pray. And this is a special net message from Q Plus here. Now, this has been thought of as many different things. It's hard to say exactly what it is. There's people who say it's a code to unlock a server key, to get into the information. Maybe it's some kind of dead drop access code that was, like when Julian Assange was dropping the WikiLeaks dumps, there was access codes that he gave out so that people who had encrypted files could access them and then release that information. Is this the beginning of it? Is this the time from which the information will drop? Now, another person has pointed out, basically, when you put in the best thing, the digits, they have this B828, which 8028, which correlates back to this B8028. And it's the, I think it's the tail number of a plane that's registered to the Chinese, Air China, I believe. So if that is the case, what does this Dassault Falcon 7.6 plane have to do with anything? Will we see more about this plane in the future? Could that be, not the right interpretation? Anything's really possible. And what is Q Plus saying here? It's hard to tell. So I'll leave that one up for you guys to use your own code breaking skills, analytical skills, critical thinking skills to see if you can find any more information out about what this code could mean, other than possibly the beginning of a new operation, and that we need to pray for all of our service members and all of our all the good guys who are working in all the agencies trying to fight this evil every day. And we need to pray for Q Plus, the Q team, President Trump, everyone involved, everyone. So you guys just keep praying. Now, the next one, I love reading this little passage, and I'll never turn down an opportunity to it. It's an excerpt from the Declaration of Independence, and it's more pertinent today, than it ever has been in our republic. It says that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are insufferable, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing and invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under the absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Q. And that's what we're in here, ladies and gentlemen. And that could not be more appropriate for post 1700 for Q to let us know that, look, this is what this is all about. This is what Q's about. This is what President Trump's about. Exposing what happened with Hillary was the tip of the iceberg. Everything else that's been the mountain of information that comes out almost on a daily basis is what we have to focus on together and exposing. And that's why I'm so thankful for you guys here helping me do it. But we have to do it together and share this with everyone. I encourage you all to go out, get your friends, families, whoever involved, tell them about this, talk about this. Just look, call it out for what it is. We have to expose the Luciferian globalist pedophile elites who want to overthrow our country and undermine every tenet of our government from the Constitution to every basic civil liberty we've ever been able to establish here since the forming of the Constitution. So that's what they want to do, because the destruction and the implosion of our country and other major countries would make way for a global government, which would be far easier to abuse and to use against the people to the benefit of a very small amount of globalists who actually already control a large amount of the wealth and would only consolidate more power in the transition of our globe into a global governing system. So don't forget that, guys. Now, Q's responding to his own post here, the one we just read, and saying a post that he did earlier, that we read earlier, saying, "You are watching the systematic destruction of the old guard. Power will return to the people, Q." And that's what it's all about. I could not be more proud and thankful of what you guys have done in spreading this information, of what Q has done in helping, get us enlightened to what's going on. What certain people in the media who have been brave have done, I can't even go through the list. I mean, there's so many people that have done great work. You can go from, take any news agency. I don't want to start naming names because the list could get really long, but suffice it to say, I try to highlight a lot of these people on my Twitter account, and that's definitely something that we should all be doing, is spreading the information. And this is it. They're going down. Their whole little system of power and control and governing through blackmail is being destroyed because we are sick of it. We, the American people, are standing up to it, and we have said, look, there is no more room for your kind of evil. There's no more room for your kind of corruption. There's no more room for this kind of global governance that's unaccountable to the people. You look at what they've done in consolidating power in the EU and removing the sovereignty of all those countries. It's literally a battle for your survival at this point. So you guys, this is crazy. And now we're going to take a quick look at President Trump's remarks today with the Jean-Claude Juncker, the EU head minister, who basically, this is what Q's referring to. The EU blinked. Concessions made. Zero tariffs, US, EU. America first. This is what happens when the POTUS does not sell out. After such an enormous announcement, what questions were shouted at POTUS? Russia delay in meeting Putin, DC. Eyes open. Mainstream media does not represent the people. The days of our leaders lining their pockets at the expense of the American people of the American taxpayer over. Recent example, go Kansas Q. And the recent example is this article talking about how Claire McCaskill's husband received $131 million in federal government subsidies since McCaskill was elected in 2007. Now, the article talks about how before she was elected, her husband was making $1,600 to $16,000 from investments. Then by 2017, 5 years into McCaskill's second term, this guy's making $365,000 to $1.1 million in personal income from his investments. Oh, I wonder what that was about. It's like, come on. I was born at night, not last night. I'm not that dull to understand that there's a reason why somebody in 10 years goes from making, a nominal amount of money to a huge amount of money when you examine these personal investments. Let's take a look at what they are. The projects were being subsidized by the federal government, so you can imagine how were those subsidies obtained and what in relation to the government subsidies could Claire McCaskill have had influence on, and who may have made those influential decisions in order to influence Claire McCaskill herself. She's already been under scrutiny for using a private plane instead of traveling with a recreational vehicle for an advertised 3-day tour around Missouri. Look, we don't know yet. This is still a story that's just kind of getting out there, but the reports are quite disturbing. They definitely warrant a further look. So it is just quite suspicious to think of how somebody could increase their profitability by that amount in 10 years, given the fact that it seems mostly due to government subsidies. And if your wife's a senator, we're going to go ahead and look at that, to be quite honest. And she's one of the biggest anti-Trumpers out there. So let's go ahead and see what she has to say about that, if she has anything useful to give us. Go Kansas, yes. You have Mike Pompeo right now testifying, and I don't know if that's over yet, probably. He was testifying in front of the committee, and it was about Russia. And you got to hear some of these ridiculous questions. This is what Q's pointing out here. It says, we just announced basically that we won the trade war with the EU. We had them come over. They capitulated. They rolled over. Now we're back to the zero tariffs that we wanted originally, from the U.S. to the EU. Or from the EU to the U.S. and or a zero off put. So we tariff them in response to their tariffs. I'm sorry, but this is what they're doing. They're shouting out questions about the Russia delay in meeting. I mean, what? So President Trump invites President Putin. I heard this today. I haven't confirmed the story yet, but I just heard it briefly on the news, talking about how President Putin had decided to push the meeting back, I guess, to January. Oh, I wonder, January 2019, what happens then? Public officials may be becoming eligible to be court-martialed, I think, in that time period. Wow, wouldn't that be interesting to see somebody actually get in trouble for breaking the law instead of just buying their way out of it? But maybe that's what it's being pushed back to, and now the media is having another meltdown and trying to conflate that against all the progress we're making in the EU trade negotiations and their big gem of a story. I mean, I don't know if it gets any bigger than this, guys. I really don't. I think this is the end of the world. But you have the Trump-Cohen CNN leaked tape, and you guys have all heard it by now. I don't need to go play it. It's ridiculous. It's like a 30 or it's like a 1 minute clip of President Trump saying a few things to Michael Cohen, and I mean regarding things that are not illegal. That's the thing. And now they're just trying to take these little snippets and infer that it's all illegal. It's all a ruse. It's all a game. It's all part of the mainstream media's tactics. It says, and this is President Trump, what kind of lawyer would tape a client? So sad. Is this a first? Never heard it before. Why was the tape so abruptly terminated? Cut while I was presumably saying positive things. I hope the other clients and many reporters that are taped, can this be so bad? Or he says, I hear there are other clients and many reporters that are taped. Can this be so? Too bad. It just shows the slimeball dirtbag that Michael Cohen is for what he did. He betrayed the president. Did the president know he was going to betray him? Possibly. I think that we're pointing to a few different things in looking back at certain posts. But, I mean, the insinuation basically here by President Trump is that Michael Cohen was spying on his own client, taping his own client without his knowledge. Obviously, he was there trying to undermine the president. Obviously, he was there in an attempt to sabotage President Trump and to get dirt on him. That way he could use that dirt later this is just another form of insurance policy. What part of the deep state did Michael Cohen crawl out from under? What rock in the swamp did he crawl out from under? Because it seems right now, if you're going to do this to the President of the United States, that's pretty much as bad as it gets, in my opinion. So you guys will let me know what you think about this. But that, people wanted to hear my take on it. I don't even want to spend time covering what CNN talks about because they're all a bunch of fake news. I don't cover fake news. I cover a lot of theory. I cover a lot of conjecture. I cover a lot of things that can't be verified. But one thing I don't cover is fake news. And that's what you get at CNN pretty much 24/7, 365. Them and NBC and MSNBC and all of them. They're all the same. They're all in the same boat. You might get one report with facts in it for every 10 reports you get that are just laden with mistruths. So that to me is why I didn't cover it. That's why I didn't even mention it. And that's why I don't even think it warrants being mentioned, other than to say to give President Trump a chance to rebut that ridiculous tape and what it and its non-implications, basically. So that to me was important. Now, this is a far more important story that I don't understand why the news won't cover. Here's President Trump saying, China is targeting our farmers, who they know I love and respect, as a way of getting me to continue allowing them to take advantage of the U.S. They are being vicious in what will be their failed attempt. We were being nice until now. China made $517 billion on us last year. Look, this is the story that the news needs to cover. I don't want to hear a tape from Trump that has no clear transcript and has no clear evidence of any wrongdoing whatsoever, other than the fact that the president's lawyer was taping him without his knowledge. I guess that's the only thing I glean from that little story. Whereas with this story, I glean that China is a threat. China's trying to undermine our republic. China's trying to influence our citizens. You want to go off on this Russia thing. You want to take on a tangent about how President Trump's colluding with the Russians. Well, what about the Chinese colluding with our own press? What about the Chinese colluding with Hollywood? What about the Chinese colluding with all of the American universities and undermining our institutions in order to implement their communist agenda or communist favorable or to elicit favorable treatment for the Communist Party, when they're obviously the ones targeting us on a massive scale, beyond the scope of anything that Russia could ever imagine or dream of doing. And I mean that. And I'll stand by that statement. So you guys will let me know what you think of that. It's just, to me, it's despicable, it's sick, it's disgusting that the media is so just completely fake and false. And that's pretty much it. So those are the latest posts. Again, if you're looking for a way to support the channel, the best way to do it is to come here to the landing page. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, please hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. It helps me out big time. It's like throwing me a buck. It's free for you, and it helps the channel out more than you'll ever know. And now that we've passed 100,000, I guess the next goal is 200,000. I don't know. We got to keep growing this channel so that we can get the message out further and wider. And look, this is what the mainstream media is freaking out about. Because we can have a conversation here and reach 100,000 people a video, and that scares them. This is just a conversation. I'm not professing to be right or wrong about anything. I have my opinions. It's an opinionated editorial. We have discussions. We talk about whether we think things are true or false. This is the dynamic that we've created. And if you guys want to get in on that conversation, the second best way to help is to scroll down at the end of this video and leave your thoughts, theories, and insights in the comments, because like I say, at the end of each one of these videos, we try to have our own QAnon research board where we don't just talk about Q, we talk about what's going on in the mainstream media and what they will and won't cover, and the stories that they're using to malign our president, and the stories that they're underreporting because it effectively counteracts their narrative, their agenda, their socioeconomic plans for themselves to be enriched and at the cost of you and I and the American people as a whole, and everyone in the world as a whole. You're all being fleeced. We're all being fleeced. It's not just America, okay? They have CNN in Europe, and they have CNN in Turkey, for crying out loud, and it's not really favorable. It's just fake news. Let's just be quite honest. Call it what it is. The president said it. I'm just repeating his words. He's the president of the United States. So that's what I'll leave that at. Now, another way you can help out, come over here and find me on Twitter at Justin_formed. I love getting involved in conversations over here. There's so much information that, I like to talk about outside of what we talk about in the videos, because it just never stops and there's always little things that need covering. So if you guys want to get those scoops and you want to talk to me and all that, come over here to @Justin_formed on Twitter. Again, that's @Justin_formed on Twitter. And you guys can just give me a holler and give me a follow. That helps out big time, and I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you all over there. Now, another way to help out the channel, if you're looking to help out financially, the best way to do it, please, is to come over here to patreon.com. Again, that's patreon.com. You can search Just Informed Talk. When you come here, it's a monthly donation. You click this button to become a patron. It helps out big time. Now, why is Patreon so important? Because of just what happens. When YouTube comes in and decides that a video of mine is not up to their guidelines or whatever, or safe for advertisers, let's say, then they tell you, hey, we're not going to monetize the video. So basically it loses you tens of thousands of monetized views, and those monetized views are what I depend on to keep this channel alive. So the more that happens, the more I'm going to rely on you guys to come over here and help me out on Patreon, and I thank you all in advance. Now, really good news. Look at this, guys. The Remagen family has met their goal. Your generosity is incredible. Just last night, I asked you guys to come over here and donate, and I know a lot of you probably did, so just as I have. So thank you for coming and contributing to this GoFundMe page for the Remagen family. And for those of you who don't know, Noel Remagen is a Secret Service agent who lost his life in Scotland after a alleged stroke, or reported stroke, that he suffered after a paraglider tried to crash the ceremony with President Trump there. Greenpeace, and who knows what happened. There's a lot of weird circumstances. If you want to get more information on that, I really encourage you to go back here and watch this video right here, because we were thankful to the United States Secret Service, and we're thankful to the sacrifice that this American patriot made. So definitely want to say thank you to him, his family, and God bless them all, and never forgotten. But thank you guys for getting this over the top here. All of you who did go and contribute, and that makes a huge difference. Now, another thing is, I'm dealing with this stuff, guys, and I appreciate all the help. I'm not going to ask for this all the time. I'm only going to mention this every once in a while if I need it, because I'm trying to get just a legal fund, a little bit of money put together so I can have a sit down with a lawyer and to talk about a few things that have been going on here. So if you guys want to help, you can. If you don't, I understand. It's totally fine. It's up to you. I really appreciate it, but it's gofundme.com/justinformedlegal. All of these will have links in the description if you guys want to get involved with helping out. But I want to say thank you all for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. And on another note, the website is coming. I'm in talks getting it prepared as we speak. I'm sorry for the delay, but things take time, and everything's being put in the works. So we'll have that up and running hopefully soon. I'm planning on launching that hopefully by the end of next month at the latest. I don't suspect it'll take much longer than that. I just want to make sure it's a solid platform and it's something that's really easy and effective for you guys to come on and use it to spread information and to get information. That's really what I want to make, and something that's secure. Those are the biggest priorities that I'm working on. So you guys have that to look forward to. I'll let you know all about that as we get closer to the completion of that. But thank you so much. And that's going to wrap it up. But before we go, we're going to talk about God. And this is the most important part of the episode. It's what I look forward to the most, is talking about God and how he comes into our lives and gives us messages and directs us, and can just have such a great impact on us as individuals if we put our faith in God first and foremost. Now, I always put my faith in God, and I know people are gonna look at us and target us for the views we have, for the thoughts we put out there, for the ideas that we just want to talk about. And I don't know what to say besides my faith is in God every day. I wake up and I pray, and I go to bed and I pray all day, and I pray no matter what. I have an open dialogue with God all the time, and I'm always involved with things that are for charity and trying my best to give back and doing good stuff for my community. And those principles, I think, are what a lot of people miss. Somebody I talk to often about these kind of things was telling me about, look at what our society has done to the youth. We can't even blame them. They've been indoctrinated. They've been robbed of an ability to grow up with positive role models. They've been robbed of the ability to grow up with a strong faith in religion. They've been robbed of the ability to go and think for themselves. All of these things our culture has waged a war against, almost a secret war, but that's so overt it's impossible to miss once you're made aware of it. And This cultural war has been going on for quite some time, and it's having its deleterious effects. And those effects are going to end up culminating in a very negative outcome if we don't try our best from here forward to reach out to those who are lost. We cannot just keep our faith to ourselves. We cannot just keep our knowledge to ourselves. We have to do our best to spread that. And in talking about that, I want to talk about one of the more popular verses that we've talked about here since we started Q, and it's one that was mentioned by Q, and it's out of Jeremiah chapter 29. But instead of just reading verse 11, I want to give you the full context of the verse. I want to read you verse 11 through verse, 14, I believe. And I think that this kind of gives you the full context of what the actual quote is saying. Now, for those of you who know this, you'll know it as soon as you hear it. But this is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you. This is the Lord's declaration. Plans for your welfare, not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. You will call to me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. I will be found by you, the Lord's declaration, and I will restore your fortunes and gather you from all the nations and places where I banished you. The Lord's declaration, I will restore you to the place I deported you from. Now, to me, what that's saying is that the Lord's power is really great and that he can restore those who have been lost. If you've been misled or misguided and you're lost and you're believing these lies of the MSM and you see people who are doing that and you want to help them, bring them to God, what you have to do is put your ultimate faith in God. Let God lead you. Let God give you the words to say. Let God put that courage and that strength and that wisdom and that divine knowledge in you to know this is what I need to say to get through to this person, because I want them to come to the light. I want them to come to the good side. I want them to stand up for what's right. We can have a disagreement. We can debate. You can have your thoughts and I can have my thoughts. But if we both have a common ground somewhere, then that's okay. And that's what we're losing in this country. And I think that's why we need to look to God in our own lives to help others to find their commonality, their peace, whatever they're looking for, because God will guide us and God will give us that strength and God will give us that courage. We just have to say that prayer. It's a prayer I say, and I'll say it right now with you. Dear Lord, please give me the courage, strength, and wisdom to know what is right so that I may be the humble servant that you deserve. Amen. And that to me, I say that all the time. I just say it to myself because it's an affirmation that I want to be God's humble servant, and that all I ask is that he makes me strong enough to do that. And in asking humbly for that, God can give you so much more than you ever realize is possible. Trust me. So I want to thank you all for watching, and thank you guys for participating in this episode, and thank you to everybody who comes and contributes and does everything, comments and the donations. It all makes a huge difference, and I'm super thankful, and I pray that we all just get through this together and keep growing and keep spreading this information that the mainstream media won't cover, for the sake of our country, our family, our loved ones, and for the sake of God, first and foremost. So that is where I'm going to leave it. I want to say thank you again for watching. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, now's a great time to do it. Come click the big red subscribe button. It helps the channel out big time. You guys don't even realize. And that's going to be it from me. Again, I want to say thank you for watching. This has been Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.